Before we begin, I'm going to ask everyone to please turn off all electronic devices to have the proper kavod and dignity during the levaya, during the funeral. I'm going to start with a parak of Tilim, parak of Gimel. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. Vinos desha yarbitzeni amei menuchos yinaleini. Nafshi yishovev yancheni mimaglei tzedek leman shimo. Kam ki elech begates amaves lo yora ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Tarok lefanai shulchan neget zoreroi. Dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi rivoya. Ach tov v'chesed udefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti veis Adonai liorech yamim. We've come to pay our respects to beloved husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, Elazar ben Yitzchak, Mr. Larry Warren. To say it's the end of generation doesn't really do justice to the heroes who are in our midst. Mr. Warren, a longtime member of the Greenwood Synagogue, we used the term that he was a survivor, but as Dale and I were talking about yesterday, he was much more than that. He was a hero, a person who had gone through the most difficult parts of life, a partisan at the age of 14 years old, his whole life in Galicia upended, losing everyone but his father, and he somehow, we use the term survived, more than survived. He built a life. He built a life here with his wife in Cleveland, without any extended family, and they built an amazing life, an amazing legacy together. I was trying to think of the way to capture this very unique individual, and I thought of a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The first Mishnah in the fourth parak, the first Mishnah in the fourth chapter, Pirkei Avot, quotes Ben Zoma. And Ben Zoma lists 4 different qualities that we normally associate one way, characteristics, and he redefines them. And I thought they were very appropriate to capture Mr. Warren. He starts up by noting who is a chacham, who is the person who is wise. And we normally think of the wise individual by the accolades that they have, by the many degrees they're able to accrue. Mr. Warren was unable to do that. When you have your education truncated as a young teenager, you don't have the time to get the formal education, but he was a brilliant man, incredibly intelligent, incredibly thirsty for knowledge. He understood things instinctively. He was a very, very wise man. Again, Ezu Chacham. A Chacham is the person, says the Mishnah, who learns from everyone. Mr. Warren fit that characteristic. The next characteristic of the Mishnah is a Gibor. He was not a large man, slight of build, short in stature, but incredibly mighty. He had gone through so many difficulties. He had physical elements that troubled him his entire life, and he overcame them all. In fact, the family said they really thought he would live forever, because he was able to come back time and time again from elements that would have crippled other individuals, that would have prevented people simply from functioning. And he went on day after day, doing what needed to be done, living a good and decent life. The Mishnah continues, who is the Ashir? We think of riches in terms of the wealth one has accumulated. He was not a wealthy man in terms of a lot of money, but he was indeed a very wealthy man. He was Sameach B'chalko, did not complain, was content with his lot, was happy with his family, was overjoyed with his grandchildren and the next generation. He was a very rich man, because he lived a full life. And the Mishnah, the last statement of the Mishnah is, who is Mechubad? Who is honored? Not the one who chased accolades. Mr. Warren was very low-key. Didn't like that. Didn't like to be noticed. Didn't like to be singled out. But he was such a unique individual that everyone who came into contact with him was touched by him. Even in the last 24 hours, different individuals who knew that I was connected to the family came over to me and talked about their interactions with him. I didn't even get a chance to tell the family this yesterday. Some of them happened last evening and this morning. People came over to talk about what a wonderful person he was and how enriched they were by their contact with him. He was a chacham. He was a gibor. He was an ashir. He was mechubad. He was so proud of his family, so proud of the opportunities they had that he would have dreamed of having that they couldn't have, and they took and were successful, and he accomplished so much. Rabbi Granitstein, my illustrious predecessor, I've often heard him speak at funerals, and the highest praise he would say of someone was, he was a good and decent person. Mr. Warren was an Adam Pashut. He was a simple man, but a profound simplicity. Simplicity in just doing what was right, overcoming incredible hurdles, never complaining, just moving forward and building a life together. During this time frame, as you come between Rosh Chodesh and Shavuot, it's a little bit different. We won't be saying the Kamaleh. We don't do quite the same form of funerals, but we learn life lessons. And the life lessons that we learned from this life of Elazar ben Yitzchak were deep and profound. How to be able to overcome incredible obstacles, always with a positive attitude, moving forward, doing what was necessary and right simply because it was the right thing to do, and creating a glorious legacy that will live on forever. Yehi Zachro Baruch. May his memory be a blessing. May the lives that his family lives, which is a credit to him, be the best testimony to who he was. I'd like to now call upon his grandson Yitzi to say a few words.
I would like to echo some of the words about my Zaidi that Rabbi Blau spoke so eloquently. As I sat down last night to compose these words, I reminded myself how impossible it is to encapsulate a man's life in a few short minutes, especially about a person such as my Zaidi. This is but a glimpse into the life of a man whose strength, determination, and courage knew no limits. A man who was a true survivor in every way. A man whose belief in God was unwavering, whose gentle smile was infectious, and whose love and dedication to our family was limitless. My Zaidi understood life in a different way. Integrity and honesty were paramount. Material things were worthless. He was unfazed by Gashmias. It never mattered to him. He was a believer. He would often say, I'm not a fanatic, but I'm a believer. He had an emunah pshuta. He would often talk about his father Yitzchak, who I am named after, and talk about how much of a learned man he was, how pious he was, and how honest he was. There was no shtick, no fanfare, just purity. Although the horrors of the Holocaust robbed him of any formal education, he was a student of curiosity, self-taught by self-determination, with an unquenched thirst for knowledge. He never missed an opportunity to marvel at the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, or how fascinating the human body is, and how only God could have created something so marvelous. He understood the true worth of a Jew, not based on observance or appearance. A Jew is a Jew, he always said. My siblings and I were fortunate enough to grow up in a home where both my Bubby, Admeva Esrim, and my Zaidi were a constant fixture, always there, always involved, always giving, always caring. My Zaidi was a true survivor. He beat all the odds. He beat Hitler. He came to the United States and built a family, along with my Bubby, a family dedicated to Torah and Yiddishkeit. A family that will, Emir to Hashem, continue to be a source of nachas for him. A family that he loved dearly. During the last years of his life, he was not a physically well man. And as Rabbi Blau mentioned, he had many physical ailments throughout his life. And he beat the medical odds many, many times. Even through pain and suffering, he would still always say, you know, I'm a lucky guy. I would like to thank my parents, Mommy and Tati, for setting an example as children to your parents that can hardly be matched. You did everything you could for our Zadie. You treated him like the true patriarch of our family, and that he was. I would like to thank the many doctors who cared for my Zadie. I know people don't like to be singled out, but in particularly both Dr. Jeffrey Lautman and Dr. Ari Mozenkis, with whom my Zadie had a special fondness and relationship with, whose siyata d'shmaya and dedication to assisting my Zadie will always be remembered. I was fortunate enough to be the last person to be with him and speak with him before he passed away. Thank you for letting me see you one last time. Although he was very sick, he was still in true Zadie form, never giving up. Hashem nasan, Hashem lakach. You had no regrets. You would say, I did it my way. You gave everything you had. Even through the communal horrors and personal destruction, you never stopped smiling and being thankful. Thank you, Zadie, for showing us what it means to be a gentle, caring, honest, giving person, what it means to never give up, what it means to trust in God even when you don't understand, what it means to be a true Jew. Zadie, as you sit in Gan Eden, please continue to daven for our family. We love you.
I'd like to ask his grandson Shmuley to come up.
I'm not going to be as eloquent or articulate as my older brother Yitz. I didn't really prepare much, but I decided, I was away from yeshiva. I'm just going to talk from my experiences. Yitz talked more broad, but I got to know my Zadie for 25 years. A lot of people don't get to know their grandparents, know their Zadie, know their bubby. But never once in his life did I ever see him complain. The man went through the Holocaust. My brother had said, procedures on procedure on procedure. Never once did I see him complain. He would come in from dialysis and other things and never asked anything of anyone. I remember I would come home from yeshiva, come home from college. He could have easily asked one of his grandkids, one of his aides, anyone, make me some eggs, do something. Never. He would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, make himself his eggs, do his own thing. Never asked anything of anyone. The only thing he lived for was giving to others. He didn't want anyone to give to him. He would never asked anything, never said to anyone, pass me anything at the table, do anything for me. He lived for his grandchildren and his children, and that's it. And he knew, he had profound intellect in knowing that it's not about yourself, it's about the next generation. And every time he used to see his grandkids, his great-grandkids, Atara, Eitan, Devorah, Chaim, all it did was bring a smile. And I remember specifically one story. My sister-in-law Shoshana was pregnant. He touched Shoshana's belly and he said, it's amazing, it's it, it's all about the next life. That's all it is. I remember specifically, and that's all he cared about was giving to his children and his great-grandchildren and his grandchildren. And when I would come home, all he would ask is, how's school? How's college? How are you doing? never wanted anything in reciprocation. It was all just him giving his heart to everyone else. And as Rabbi Blau echoed, never wanted recognition, and that's who his life, that's who he was. He was just a person that, at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered to him were his values and making sure that they were carried on for future generations. And if there's one thing that a value that I think, for me, I learned from, and it's from the Holocaust generation, it's just, everyone goes through things, everyone has pain, has agony, and it's so easy to give up and complain and say, why me, why me, why me? And my Zaidi never said, why me? He always said, I'm a lucky guy. That's it. It's not why me. I'm a blessed human being. It's easy for a person that was in my Zaidi's position to feel as though, why me? And I never once in my life, and it's my father too, and everyone down the line, never why me. It's always push forward, on to the next. And I saw my father last night, and it's a testament to my Zaidi, and he easily could have been emotional and just, the first thing was, we're going to get through it, and that's it. And we're going to push through, and it's next man up and next generation. And if there's one thing that I think my Zaidi exuded, it's that. And that life is precious, and that life is not given, and that through trials, tribulations, that God has a plan, and that whether it's known or not, that emunah and bitachon and being able to see past the moment that is now and have a profound intellect in knowing that there's always something ahead and something around the corner, and that just because something happens or life has its troubles, that to never say why me, and always say, I'm a lucky guy.
I'd like to call up his son Stanley to say a few words.
Thank you, everyone, for your kind words. It's very difficult to believe this moment has come. Although it's been on the minds of our family for a long time, no one is immortal, but my father came very close. It is also really hard for me to encapsulate a remarkable life, full of teachable moments and a few words. But my Rebbe, Rabbi Katz, told me I have to try, so I'm going to do that. My father was born near Lvov in Ukraine in 1928. Early in his life, his family's property was confiscated by Stalin. It was followed by the cataclysms of World War II. He was forced out of his home, his town, and his life as a young teenager. For more than 2 years, he fought with the partisans. He ran continuously, he slept in holes in the ground, in the woods, he foraged for food, and he rarely came upon a poor peasant who offered him a piece of bread or fruit. Later in his life, as with many Holocaust heroes, he began recounting to us the full horrors he witnessed. They are unfathomable to us, as was his life and his survival. After the war, he came to Cleveland with his father, his only remaining member of his immediate family. He married my mother, his wife Sarah, and rebuilt his life. He was a devoted husband, and of course he championed his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and he garnered the respect and the love of all of those who knew him. He was remarkable in the midst of the worst that life can offer. He modeled the best that humans can offer. He was beset his whole adult life with many illnesses. They were difficult to bear. He did so with a smile, as you've heard previously from the other wonderful speakers. And he aspired to be a kind and gentle person always. Before one of his many surgical procedures, my wife remarked that he was quite the hero. He replied, "I don't want to be a hero. All I want to be is a good human being." And he meant it. That was a powerful lesson for us. He was not formally educated, although he was a wise and a devoted Jew. He held rabbis and teachers in the very highest esteem. He admired and respected those with sterling character. Rabbi Kazin, Rabbi Fabian, Rabbi Baran, Rabbi Katz, among many others. It's too numerous to list. He was a great admirer of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he always marveled at his emphasis on being inclusive of Ahavas Yisrael. My father was an astute observer of human nature. He understood greatness. He was an ardent Zionist. One of his favorite pictures was taken atop a tank when he visited Israel after the '67 war. One of his big regrets was not being there to fight for the establishment of the Jewish state in 1948. That was a powerful lesson to us. He had a formidable intellect, and he was never ending in his quest for knowledge. Often, he told the story of ending up in Berlin when the war ended, and the first thing he did was go to the library and try to find science books and education, things that he wanted to learn about. He always wanted to be a doctor. He was fascinated by medicine. Alas, that was not to be, but his passion always remained. As a carpenter, with only a grade school education, he was put in charge of projects at the Mount Sinai Medical Center, including installing MRI machines that were just developed in those days. He would sometimes sneak into the operatories where they were doing brain and heart surgeries, and he would watch in amazement and delight. He never let his lack of opportunity discourage him from the love of learning and commitment to doing a top-notch job. He was a lifelong learner, and until the last year of his life, he read the Wall Street Journal every day, cover to cover. He kept abreast of current events. He graced us with his observations that reflected a lifetime of experience and knowledge. A powerful lesson to our family. He was a great source of nachas for him was the fact that his children and grandchildren were able to take advantage of the opportunities that this wonderful country offered so that they might achieve success. But above all, he was proud of the fact that they became decent, caring, honest people. That was always first to him, a powerful lesson to all of us. His regard for science and progress extended to the many physicians who treated him. We have our favorite Dr. Lauman in front of us here, who treated him over the years. I think it's not an exaggeration to say he adored them and they him. Our family wants to express our hakaras hatov to all the doctors whose love and care was beyond description and certainly beyond the call of duty. Thank you. He leaves behind, a family very attached to him. Doreen and I, our children, grandchildren, will miss him dearly. We feel grateful and privileged to have had our Tati and Zadie in our lives for so many years. We hope we can keep the inspiration he gave us alive and always strive to do our best and be our best. Please, Tati and Zadie, grant us mechila for anything we may have said or done that was not befitting the special person that you were.
Before we conclude the Levaya, before we conclude this service, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible kibbud of aim that Stanley and Doreen had for their father and Yibat L'chaim, their mother. The care they took, yes, he was very close to them. Part of the reason they were able to be so close was they were together. And as they got advanced in years, they took care of them. They took them into their home, and they lived together for many, many years. And that really is something that all of us should admire, aspire to emulate, and we have to publicly thank you for that incredible act of kibbud av v'aim. As I noted earlier, we're not going to say Hakel Malay. We are going to say of Perek of Tilim. Michtam leDavid, Shermeni el ki chasi, sivach, amat laDonai, Adonai ata tavasi balo lecha, likdosh mesheba eretz hema v'adirei kol chef siba. Yuvuat v'samachem haru, balasik niklehem idam, balasash mosam al sfaso, Adonai menos chelki v'chosi atatomich gorali. Kavalim naftali banimim af nachalash afra alai, Avarek Adonai asher yatzani, af leilos yisuni chil yoso, Yishivisi Adonai l'dagdi samich bini balemot. Lakein tzamach libi v'gel kvodi, af tzari yishkon laveta, kilos azov nafshi lishol, los titein chasit kol l'rosh shokas. So the eni arach hayim sevas machotes panecha nimos mimincha netzach. This concludes the service. The interment, the kfur, will take place at Zion Memorial Park immediately after the Levaya. The family will be sitting Shiva at 2400 Blossom Lane. Mincha will be at 7:10, doing a plag Mincha and Marev. Shachos will be at 7:30. Visitation in the evenings will be 6:30 to 9, again with Mincha and Marev in between. In the morning, some Shachris until 10 o'clock. Anyone who would like to contribute is asked to do so to the Kol Israel Foundation.